If you're just using a sheet of paper to level your bed, you're doing it wrong. You're not going to get reliable prints, and the first layer is the most important layer in 3D printing. Without it, a 10-hour print is going to become a 10-hour failure. You're going to be ending up wasting your filament, your time, and your money. And add on top to the time that you're going to be looking into your slicer settings, trying to figure out what went wrong, looking at your printer like, why are you doing me wrong? Looking at yourself like, what did I do wrong? And you're going to cry yourself to sleep every night. And you have this issue where your prints sometimes come out good, sometimes don't, and you're basically playing a luck game. You don't want your machine to be playing luck, right? This is 3D printing, it's not the casino. So if you're one of those people who have to constantly monitor their 3D printer, you can't go out because you need to watch it, or you can't go to sleep, you can't leave it on when you go somewhere, then this video is for you, so stay and watch to the end. So there's two reasons why your print is going to fail. It's either the nozzle is too close to the bed, or the nozzle is too far from the bed. I'm going to show you some prints that have these as an example. Take a look at this print here. This is a Wii U controller holder, but let's look at the bottom. Do you see how this part is all ripped off? That's because the nozzle was way too close to the bed, so it made a very thin layer for the first layer. And when I tried to pull it off, it actually stuck to the bed and ripped here and here. I'd say this came out pretty lucky. There's a worse one. I have this drawer here. Same thing happened, but let's look at the actual drawer. There's holes all through the bottom because the nozzle was way too close to the bed and it ripped the layers right off. So now these sections are just unusable as the drawer. And yet I'd still say that these came out lucky. Though the part was ripped here, it didn't really mess with the structure of the rest of the print. But here's where that changes. This is one where the nozzle was too close to the bed, and this is supposed to be an extendable sword. So you would hit it out and the full sword would come out. But do you see that? Completely flat. There's no rings. It's because the nozzle pushed so hard on the bed, the filament stretched out and connected to each other all around the rings. So now it's stuck together and you're not getting a sword out of this. It's just a cool looking handle at this point. Right here is where I have a lightsaber. This doesn't look much of a lightsaber, right? I mean, where's the rest of it? Well, I'm going to show you, it's right here. This is what happened when the nozzle was too far away from the bed. Basically, especially for very tall prints like this, is that if the first layer isn't compacted onto that bed, the nozzle will come around at some point during the print and it will move the print. Once it's moved, your nozzle is just going to be printing on air and it's going to come out like this. Came home one day and it was just on top of here and the nozzle just kept printing and printing. Now this is all wasted filament. And yet these were all printed using the paper sheet leveling method. With thicker and flatter prints, when you're getting too close to the build plate, it's not going to be too much of a problem for the rest of your print, but it will be a problem for your nozzle and for your base plate, because if the nozzle is too close and it's scratching, you're going to have abrasions on your nozzle, especially for soft brass ones if you don't have a hardened steel nozzle. So you're just going to be degrading your 3D printer bit by bit. In fact, you might burn through your build plate. I've had that happen before, where the nozzle was too close to the bed and it just started digging a trench for itself, and it kept getting deeper and deeper until it burned through the entire plate. So this can and will happen if your bed isn't leveled correctly. I'm going to show you how to do that now, but first things first, we have to clean my build plate. To correctly level your bed, you got to make sure that your build plate is clean. I have a bunch of glue here, leftover print and dust and crumbs, and I don't even know what else is on here. But the good news is it's pretty easy to clean. You can clean it with isopropyl alcohol or just your standard dish soap and a microfiber cloth, or you can just use something else that's a clean cloth. So I have some dish soap here. I'm going to put some water on the cloth and just wipe this down. Honestly, I'd say to take off your build plate because it's magnetic and just take it to your sink and rinse it off with warm water, but I don't really feel like getting up and bringing it downstairs. So I'm going to wipe it off right here. Yep. Okay, after wiping it down, you want to let it dry off or pat it down with a non-fiber towel until it's clean like this. Look how pristine it is now. Not a single speck. You don't want to touch it because you're going to get your hand oils and your skin flakes and whatever on the bed, but we need this as clean as it can be to get our leveling right. After it dries off, the next thing you're going to want to do is start your bed to 60 degrees Celsius, is whatever you usually print with. So we go to prepare, temperature. This is an Elegoo Neptune 3 Max, but I'm sure your UI might look a lot different. And I'm just going to put this up to 60. And let this heat up. The reason we're heating our bed is because metal contracts and expands under heat. So the way you level your bed when it's at room temperature is going to be different than the way you level it when it's up at 60 degrees. So your bed is going to slightly warp, and to get accurate results, you want to make sure that you level it while it's up at 60 degrees or whatever your normal printing temperature is. Now, the other thing you want to make sure is that your nozzle is clear of filament. You can see here, I still have a little piece here that should come off. And you should be cleaning your nozzle before you level. There's a little drop of filament there from my last print. So I just kind of snapped it off. You could also just run your extruder until all the filament comes out of the nozzle, but I just snapped it off because what I'm going to show you, that actually won't matter for you leveling your bed. Now, most tutorials and most articles will tell you to use a sheet of paper. So you go into your leveling, confirm, it'll start moving. It's going to zero out first. And they'll tell you to get your sheet of paper and put it underneath. And to adjust your nozzle, move it up, move it down until it's about the same thickness as the paper. Or with older printers, they would tell you to use the knobs here to adjust from each corner of your bed. But here's the problem with this method. Not everyone has the same sheets of paper. They don't all have A4. They don't know what the same thickness means. Does it mean that if it's under, I can't move it? Or should there be a little friction, a lot of friction? Should it be completely free? Like this, I can't even move it under the printer right now. So what does that mean? Is that good enough? Is that bad enough? How do I know? The simplest and best way to actually level your bed is going to be to print something. Well, you might say, well, how do I print something if I have to level my bed first? Well, right, you can use the sheet of paper method. That's a good rule of thumb. It's not going to give you the accurate results, accurate numbers, and it's not going to be consistent when you print. So initially, yes, you want to use the paper. And then you can find something that you want to print. I'd say something with a big base, flat, like this Pickle Rick podium. And here's the thing, we're not going to print this entire object. We're just going to print the first couple layers because it has a nice flat layer. Let's go over to our slicer settings. And you're going to use the bottom of your print to dictate whether it's a good first layer or a bad first layer. I'm going to show you the ways you can do that. You're going to have your object in your slicer. You're going to turn off any build plate adhesions, right? Because we want to do this with the raw build. It's going to take you 5 minutes to print the first couple layers. You can go ahead and slice it. Well, I'm actually going to shrink this down because it's a little too big than I need it to be. It doesn't have to be something big, something small. That size is fine, right? We're going to slice it up, cut it up. Now that says 1 hour, 42 minutes. We're only going to use 3 minutes of that. Open it up, save it to your removable drive. Go ahead and always eject your SD cards and chuck it in the printer. So what you're gonna be doing is watching this first layer, looking for any mess ups. And then by the end of the first maybe 4 layers, you'll be able to look at the bottom and realize whether it actually had a good adhesion or not. So right now, I can already see that it's too far away from the bed. You can see that. You see how those lines aren't touching? They aren't squished enough, which means that the nozzle has to be closer to the bed. But I'm gonna keep it running and show you when it's actually finished, so you know the difference. Again, we're 0%, we're 5 minutes into it, and you can already tell that the bed adhesion isn't good. It's not close enough to the bed. Well, let's let the nozzle move out of the way, the extruder. You see that? You see how those lines aren't touching? Your first layer line should be touching. I've let it go on for an extra 15 seconds, but I'm gonna stop it now. I'm also gonna stop the time lapse. Just gonna take it off the bed. We're gonna look at the bottom. You see the layer lines? That's bad. You don't want to be seeing the layer lines. This means when I go to level it, I'm going to lower the nozzle. But you can see the layer lines all across on the edges. They aren't connected together at all. I'm gonna put it down so I can zoom in better. You can see all here. They aren't connected. They aren't connected all across. You saw that I didn't have to have this going on for the extra 15. Just 5 minutes is all I needed to know that this wasn't close enough. So we're gonna go back to leveling. We're gonna level it again. So in my leveling options, I'm gonna lower this down by a 0.1 millimeter. And if you had any other printer where you would have to use the cogs, you would maybe do them a quarter turn or just to raise your bed actually. Because I'm lowering my nozzle, but if you are using the cogs, you wanna raise your bed by a quarter amount turn. And I'm gonna print this again. Again, this is the next one. It's 6 minutes in. Looking at it again, and you can still see that it's not close enough to the bed still. You see that? It's definitely getting closer. They're starting to connect together at some of the wider points. It's still not uniform, but I'm going to let it do a full layer, and then I'm going to stop this print again. 15 minutes into this other one, and we can go ahead and stop it. All right. Just hit it off. It's a little thinner because I didn't let it go for as long. Look at it. Look at the bottom. It's probably very hard to see, but let's do it side by side. You can see a lot of the grain here. The lines are less visible here. And so we're gonna go back to leveling, confirm, and we're gonna lower it again by another 0.10. And for the sake of this video, I'm only doing 0.1 millimeter each time. You could do 1 millimeter each time, but just so you can see the difference in the bed adhesion, I'm showing it to you this way. And print it again, and let's see what it comes out this time. Now here, this is for the third one. You see that? Do you see how the lines are connected now? There are no gaps in between them, except for this corner, which means that we just have to lower it again a little bit to stop corners like that. I'm still gonna let this print out all the way and show you afterwards. Again, this is only 6 minutes in, and you can already tell whether it's gonna be a good print or not. For this third layer, we can go ahead and stop it and take this one off as well. Already we're seeing major improvement. It's already looking better, but there's still layer lines. You want to go until the bottom of your print is the exact same texture as your build plate. You can definitely see it better with the flash off. So the detail, the lines are still there, especially on the outer walls and perimeter. So I've switched it over to the 0.01 millimeter scale and just went down 5, which is going to be half of the 0.1. All right, this one's again 8 minutes in, and we're looking at it. You can't even tell if there's lines there anymore. It's completely smooth at this point. So just in these increments, we're getting better. You want to use smaller increments because you don't want to go too close to the bed, or else you're going to be printing too close and possibly ruin your bed. I'll stop this one once the first couple layers are finished and show you the difference between all 4. You know what? I lied actually there, because I didn't like how this one turned out. You could still see the layer lines, or you could still see the lines there on the bottom. So I lowered it by another 0.05 millimeters, and actually it's too low, because now once the extruder moves, you'll see that there's a lot of folds there. So it's actually creasing up, kind of like a tectonic plate really, because it's pushing down so hard, the filament is squishing up around it. And so when it meets with the others, it makes those ridges. It's very hard to see while it's printing, but I'll show you when it's done. I mean, but imagine you had a piece of Play-Doh and you squashed it down. And the outsides would float up around your hand. And that's basically what's happening with the filament now. So this is a good example of your nozzle being too close to the bed. You also know because it's so thin that it's becoming more and more transparent. If the first layer is really transparent, it's because it's way too close to the bed. In the corner, you can see that it's coming up a bit and the nozzle's actually scraping on it. It's hard to see here. You can hear it. That's because it was squished down, right? So now the outsides kind of wraps around the nozzle while it's printing. So when the nozzle comes back, it's at nozzle height. So it'll just scrape it off. And that's what happened here. So I mistakenly moved it down too much, but it's actually perfect to show you the opposite of being too far versus being too close to your bed. See, it's a game of balance. You want to be at the perfect height. Here on the one that was too close, I can show you the overlap better without the extruder in the way. So right there, these ridges, that's overlap of the lines. They're trying to squeeze to fit in the same spot, kind of like tectonic plates. Especially here, you can see them. Now with all 5 here, we can see the difference. Clearly, when it's too far away from the bed, you're gonna get these big lines on the bottom. You know, the bottom of your print should not look like this. It also shouldn't look like this. This would be way too close, but it's easier to see when you turn it over the amount of ridges that are gonna pop up because you're squeezing the lines together and they just don't want to fit. Over here, you got less close, you got super far. In the middle, you got just right. The bottom of the print should be looking like this. The texture of your build plate, there should be no ridges from the lines connecting to each other, right? You want smoothness, and that's gonna give you the best adhesion to your plate. To add on to that, you could also add glue sticks. For example, my Elegoo came with a build platform glue stick. I just put that on anytime I'm working with something like TPU or PC because those are a lot stickier than PLA and they might ruin my build plate. So if you want to use the glue, just apply an even layer everywhere where it's going to print. Or if you're also working with those types of filaments, you can print with a brim, which is a type of adhesion, and it's basically going to print a filament line around your print, and it's gonna it's gonna almost connect to your actual print, but it's gonna keep the layer lines down so that it's actually stuck to the build plate and it doesn't want to fold up on the outer edges. Now you know what the best layer adhesion looks like. But there's one other problem, and that's what if your bed is warped? How do you know if your bed is warped? And again, it's a really simple way to figure that out. What you're essentially going to do is the exact same thing we did here, but you're going to do it across the board. You can do all 4 corners and the center, or just all 4 corners, and they should all look like the just right layer. They all should look the same. And if any layer is either too close or too far, now that you know what it looks like, then you can say, okay, well, this side has to be adjusted. So I just go to my cog, adjust that end, adjust that end. It's rare, but it can happen that your base plate comes from the factory and it's warped on one of the edges, or there's some scratches or bumps. So if any of that, you can just test that with the method I just showed you now. And there's multiple ways of doing that. One of the ways is really just to duplicate your model. Here you go, multiply selected. Let's say I want to do 4 of them. Now I have 4 pickle ricks. I can put them on all 4 corners of my print bed. Maybe leave one in the center if I want. They also have some on Thingiverse, so we can go to Chrome. There are multiple bed level tests that you can do, especially this one. It's the same thing like the pickle rick. You're just going to print. It's going to go to all 4 corners and the center, and you're going to look at the bottom layer or look while it's printing. Again, it really takes 5 minutes to just see if it's going to be a good layer or not. All right, now I have all 5 printed. Look at the bottom. That side's good. Flip it over. That side's good. Over here. That side's good. That corner's good. And that corner's good. So that's how you see, especially for mine, I have a very big base plate. I got a 420 by 420 by 500, so I can print extremely big. So if you want me to print anything big, let me know in the comments. I'll see what I can do. Now that we know that the bed is now leveled, we can actually go ahead and finish up with the actual printed pickle rick. So it's about 50% scale I was thinking if I want to do supports, but I don't know. I'm just going to print it without supports. It doesn't say that it needs supports on the actual Thingiverse file. So I'm just going to save this. It's going to be a 2 hour and 39 minute print. I'm also going to print it on extra fast mode with my 0.8mm nozzle. Rick done at 2 hours and 53 minutes. So honestly, the detail is gone. Like, you can't even read the text because I'm printing with a bigger nozzle and the extra fast mode. I also scaled this down by maybe 60% or so. The details kind of ruined, like in the mouth, kind of the bumps here. But if we're looking at the bottom, right, same texture as the build plate or the base plate. Back to our recap, trying to get it just right. You don't want the nozzle to be too close. You don't want it to be too far so that your prints come out nice each time. Right? You also have different things you can use like glue. You can glue the bottom down, but I would say to not use glue when you need any tolerance fits, kind of like this here. There's little pieces in here that if I glued the bottom, it'd be wider across the perimeter because the glue would add a little more friction as well. So you don't want it for frictionless parts, and you don't want it if you want really small prints going. You know, I would recommend if you are printing anything that's long, skinny, if I were to print a 3D printed glue stick, I would glue the bed down because there's not much surface area for the print to grab onto. You can see that the bottom is messed up because, you know, look how far away it is from the bed. You can see the lines pretty easily. And so when that printer came back around, it basically just moved everything. Still came out fine. This was a really flat print and it had a lot of surface area to grab onto. The other thing you can do is print using brim mode. We're just gonna have that layer around your print. Brim is pretty good. It doesn't print underneath your print, just around it. It stops the first layer from peeling upwards. I hope you learned something. If you did, hit the like button. Love you.